I will go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to PoliticOly. It's June 14th, 2020. This is episode 15, and it has been 93 days since Kianga Taylor was killed in her home, and the cops who killed her have not yet been arrested. This week on PoliticOly, I'll cover the continuing Black Lives Matter revolution with updates from Olympia, Portland, Seattle, and beyond. Yes, I will explain what is the Chaz and is it Mad Max? You have an expert opinion here, but I will elaborate that more as we go. So thank you for tuning in. I go live every Sunday. My aim is 1 to 2 o'clock Pacific time. I'm a little behind that schedule right now because I wanted to get everything set up for the show. So thanks for bearing with me, and thanks for tuning in, and I'd love to hear from anyone in the chat. You can also find me on Twitter at Oli Stewart and at OliPolitic, and you can also email me at politicoly@gmail.com. With that said, I hope you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications to catch me when I go live. And if you have any feedback for the show, I'd love to hear it. I am trying to get the mic volume turned up to a proper level here, so let me know in the chat if that is working or not for you. And I appreciate all of the constructive criticism and feedback that I get from you all as I continue to learn how to improve the show. On that note, I am going to be doing a 10 stories in 10 minutes segment here. My goal is to get out a whole bunch of good points and good links and perspectives and just hit some bullet points here real quick to keep it rolling here and share with you a whole bunch of content in a short amount of time, and there will be links to all of this content in the description below. So check out the description after the show and you can find links to everything that I talk about here on the show. And if I miss something, let me know. All right. Moving along, I am going to start with the 10 stories in 10 minutes segment on a tweet by Benjamin Dixon. So here you go, everybody. I hope you enjoy this. Check it out.
Look at this. Look at this.
Okay, all right. So it's obviously a very heavy time for all of us, and so I wanted to start on a little bit of a positive note there, and just that group of kids there doing their little Black Lives Matter march, and Benjamin Dixon tweeted that, so just wanted to share that with you to start the show. Moving along, I have a link to Eddie Conway's show Rattling the Bars on the Real News Network. And I would heavily recommend both the Real News Network and Eddie Conway's show in particular. Now, I'm just going to show a tiny piece of this clip here, and again, the link to the rest of it will be in the description. But this is an excellent interview about LA County closing 3 juvenile prisons and some of the history of incarceration in LA County and the vision for what will happen next. That's a quote from the description on Real News Network.
Also seen in the state prisons, there's even more deaths, and in the federal prisons, of course, deaths also. So we have Lamont here in California, Lamont Federal Prison and Terminal Island Federal Prison. Both have had over 10 deaths now. So we have, again, hundreds of people testing positive and dozens of deaths for people in custody. The rates are much higher than in the general population on the outside.
It's also organizing around prisons.
And this is Eddie
do
Conway.
You think that this drive...
I'm not going to play the whole interview, but again, I'm going to link it in the description. I hope you go watch it and tune into the Real News Network for some excellent media coverage. They have a number of black hosts that have excellent shows, so check out the Real News Network. Moving along, I have an update from Portland, and this is from Alex Zielinski, who is a journalist with Portland Mercury. You can find their work at Alex_Z on Twitter. And just to really quick highlight a couple of the threads here, and quote, "Hi Portland, I see a lot of you are getting interested in how our police bureau works. As someone who's reported on Portland cops for a few years, I'm thrilled. To help get you up to speed, I thought I'd share some past stories I've written on policing in Portland." And there's a thread of links here to a whole bunch of stories, and you can learn more about what is going on in Portland. And that is just a great start there to get you started on catching up in Portland. And the link to their Twitter page is in the description. So moving on, Joe Biden has responded to calls across the country to defund police departments with a proposal to give police departments an additional $300 million. And they say, he says, of course, oh, it's for training, so they will know how to act. Well, giving police more money is not going to help the problem. And that's not just me talking. This is a statement by the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, that calls Biden's plan a, quote, non-starter. So that's not just me speaking. Again, that is the official ACLU statement on Biden's policy, calling it a non-starter. And the link to that is in the description. Real quick follow-up to that is Howie Hawkins, the Green Party candidate for president, with a tweet saying, quote, "Biden, like Trump, wants more money for police. We say divest from police, prisons, military, surveillance. Invest in communities, housing, resources for mental health and addiction, alternatives to incarceration, full employment and green jobs, healthcare and education." So the link to that tweet is in the description as well. Keep an eye on Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker with the Green Party for a additional political perspective beyond the capitalist duopoly. Moving on, the discussion this week about the terms reform, defund, and abolish has been raging. So I have just a couple of quick perspectives on some of those terms. And this is one from Mark Lamont Hill in an interview with Haymarket Books.
So when people talk about the abolition of police, ultimately, for me, that means that we want to work toward a world where police will no longer be the way we resolve social contradictions, the way we deal with harm, the way we address crisis. So the police don't have as much work to do, right? So the police don't have as much policing budget and put it in these other areas so that police don't have as much work to do, right? Which again, in some ways is a good thing, because I don't want police responding to my uncle who's passed out with an overdose or to resolve a petty conflict of two neighbors arguing when the police show up and someone ends up getting killed because of that, right? I get that. But defunding the police in some ways could just end up taking all the light work off the police's plate, and they have more time to target and occupy and militarize in our neighborhoods. That's not the right answer. So we have to think about, when we use language of defunding, it has to be accompanied by an abolitionist vision.
All right, and the link to not just that clip, but the whole interview, and that's in the description. That's with Haymarket Books, and also featured in that show is Kianga Taylor, who is also a really critical voice right now in America. So the link to that full interview, not just that clip, again, is in the description. Now, speaking of Kianga Taylor, I have a tweet here to show you from Kianga, quote, "For those newly interested in systemic racism, yes, put up your Black Lives Matter window sign. But stopping this wave of evictions where African Americans will be disproportionately affected is where the real fight against racism begins." End quote. And I will report more on this topic in the future, and because I agree it is critically important. And Kianga Taylor literally wrote the book on this issue, so check that out and follow them for their critical perspective right now. The link to that tweet is in the description. Moving on, I have a link to the description as well to this thread by Zoe Simmons Woods, who is a writer, and this thread is on the carceral nature of the healthcare system as well, and one quote, one that gatekeeps and blocks trans people's rights to self-care and gender self-determination, end quote. And you can go ahead and read this whole thread, and there's a whole bunch of really important links with tons of information. And they are an excellent researcher and journalist and resource on that topic, as well as many others. So I recommend you check out their work and that thread in particular. And I will talk more about transgender rights later in the show. I have another thread that I'm going to link to with a whole bunch of links and resources and places for folks to donate if they want to do something for the benefit of transgender communities in America. So stay tuned for more on that topic. Now, moving on, Devon Springer, whose Twitter handle is @halfatlanta, has a quote here. Quote, "I've been saying this to friends all week. The new wave of media response to this moment likely won't be canceled propaganda shows, but rather, quote, heartfelt, raw, and honest episodes that feature caricatures of activists uniting with the good cops by the end of the episode." And they are responding to an announcement of a show here with Terry Crews, some kind of police show. So you will see that as well. The propaganda, the police propaganda is embedded in all of our capitalist media, and so keep an eye on that, and the link to that tweet is in the description. I also have another thread by Devon later in the show, so stay tuned for that, because they have another thread of links that you will want to see. So stay tuned for more from Devon Springer. Moving on, Ramzi Horta is the name of the person who had the video of the New York Police Department killing Eric Garner several years ago, and he was the only one that ever went to jail in that instance. He was targeted by police, he was poisoned by rat poison, he went through all kinds of terrible abuse by the police trying to break him down. But instead of being broken down, he has just been so strong and gotten through it, and now he is out thanks to pressure from the community. And this is a link to the Ramzi Horta Welcome Home Fund, which raised over $300,000. And it wasn't just the money raised that I wanted to highlight here. What I wanted to highlight was this quote by Ramzi Horta from earlier this month, 6/11, when he was released. So take a look at, let's see, quote, "I just want to thank all my supporters because you were here battling for and with me. All your letters, petitions, calling, emailing, donations, and just being here for me. I thank you wholeheartedly. You guys gave me the strength to continue on. I want to thank We Cop Watch so much for taking me in when no one else would, for holding me accountable for my actions when others turned their back on me, and for helping show my path into a life of public service." And the link in the description is so you can read the rest of the statement from Ramzi there. But what I wanted to highlight that for is to show you that jail support is critically important, especially for political prisoners, because there's a lot of psychological warfare going on against these folks, and they really need solidarity from the community. And this is an instance where you can just hear someone's words explaining to you how important that is. moving on, that was 10 topics in 10 minutes, but I have one more link that I want to share with you here before I move on. And this is an excellent one to share with family and other people who may put more weight in a article about police abolition if it's in a very mainstream publication like the New York Times. And Mariam Makeba got this opinion piece published in the New York Times titled, "Yes, we mean literally abolish the police because reform won't happen," on June 12th, 2020. And you can find Mariame at Prison Culture on Twitter. And that is an excellent resource as well. They have just a long history and they really know what they're talking about on this topic. And I'm not going to read the whole article here from the New York Times, but just please go read this and share this with family, with, this is a good thing to post on like Facebook and things like that, where folks might be more likely to click on something like this. And they are a long-time abolitionist organizer and extremely intelligent and well-researched and accountable to the community as well. So not a voice that you will find in a publication like the New York Times often. So highly recommend that article, and the link is in the description. All right. That was fun. Okay, that was the 10 issues in 10 minutes segment. I didn't actually time myself, so I don't know exactly how I did there. Maybe I went a little long, I don't know. But I want to pick up the pace and be organized with my links and everything and make this show continue to improve in the future. And I hope that went well for you all. You can find links with more of that information in the description. And send me links if you want to for the next show. You're welcome to email me at politically@gmail.com, any kind of links or anything like that to get on the show. And moving on, I would like to do a local update for the Olympia area for Black Lives Matter related topics for this week. And I just have a couple of updates for you, and then I wanted to share some of the event flyers and things going on from Olympia and talk about a couple of topics here. Let's pull it back up the slideshow and move along here. Oh yeah, just to explain here, this was at the beginning of the show. This is a mural in downtown Olympia on Fifth Avenue, and this is before it was completed, but this is a beautiful mural on Indigenous and Black American organizing solidarity against victims of police violence. So rest in peace, John T. Williams, rest in peace, George Floyd, and everyone else on this beautiful mural. Go check it out on Fifth Avenue. It's still up there. So, and just to explain what that was. Okay, so there is a Facebook group, Defund Olympia Police Department. Go check that out for a lot of information. I got this meme and a couple of other things from that site, and so keep an eye on that page for more information specific to Olympia police budget and organizing around defunding the Olympia Police Department. This is an example of a rally. There was a march on Friday from the Tumwater Walmart to the Capitol building. I was not able to attend that one, but from what I hear, that was an excellent event. So thank you to everyone out there hitting the streets. I really appreciate your dedication, and not all of us can be out there all the time, and so what we just have to do is go to events that we can and participate in ways that we can and do our best to continue to step out of our comfort zones to do as much as possible to continue this political revolution. And a lot of this one is another one from the Defund OPD group here. So again, stay tuned to that Facebook group for more graphics and things you can share with regard to Olympia Police Department. There's been some really good, beautiful flyers. This is an example of a event from last week. that just looks kind of vintage. Oh, here's another one, June 11th, March on Washington State Capitol. There's been so many events and different ways that folks can participate that are peaceful, that are accessible to different folks, and that are community oriented. And so I just like to focus on that. Oh, this one is a little bit more recent than that other one I had pulled up, so I'll leave that on the mural for a second. But what I'm saying here is that there are a diversity of tactics that we need in this movement for a political revolution. But if you are interested in civil disobedience or anything like that, or anything technically against the law, then what you need to do is be offline and follow excellent info security protocols and be extremely careful and take care of yourself, and don't make it easy for the police to target you. And you're going to be organizing offline if you're talking about civil disobedience. And so, but if you are organizing online and you are organizing in a way that is family friendly, or whatever else you need to do to keep yourself safe and participate in the movement in a way that is safe for you and your family, there are so many ways to do that. And we've really seen that this week. There's been potlucks, barbecues, music, speakers, a witches march, sunrise ceremonies, mural painting, sidewalk chalking, block parties, and on and on. And so if you want to organize, if you have an idea for an event like that, then you should just go ahead and organize it, and it'll come together, because folks want to continue showing up in ways that are creative, in ways that build community, in ways that in ways that allow space for many people of different abilities to participate. And I just want to shout out to all of the amazing organizers and everything going on in Olympia over the past week. I can't even go into the details on all of the different events, but it's been wonderful to see. So thank you to everyone. And again, I appreciate a diversity of tactics on this show, but what I'm going to do is focus on the public type organizing and demonstrating, and try to report on those kind of things. And that's just my place as a public YouTuber here, trying to be safe and trying not to put anyone at risk, and focusing on things that are going on in the community and ways for you to connect and plug in and help, and just try to increase the amount of information and discussion about what is going on in the community. So that's what we're going to continue to focus on in this show. I would love to hear from you. If you have stories about your participation in the political revolution here in Olympia, and you would like to share that on the show, whether by text for me to read or by audio or video message, you can email me at PoliticOly@gmail.com. Moving on, I wanted to highlight the Justice for Yvonne McDonald development this week. There was a court case in Lewis County filed against the Thurston County, and I don't want to get too specific because I don't know all of the exact details for this lawsuit at this time, so I'm going to report more on this in the future. But the key takeaway for today is that there was a gathering of reportedly around 200 folks in support of this case for Justice for Yvonne McDonald, and only a few of them were, maybe 20 or something, were let into the courtroom because of distancing requirements. But there was a ton of support from the community, so thank you to everyone that showed up in support. And what happened was the Thurston County prosecutor, John Thunheim, reportedly requested that the judge dismiss the case, and the judge denied that motion. So the case will continue, and again, I will report more on that in the future when I have more specific information about that. So stay tuned for more on the search for justice for Yvonne McDonald in Olympia. Pardon one moment.
Tell us about Nina and...
All right. Before we move on, I just want to play this short clip, and this is a story on Democracy Now! In an interview with Al Shackman, and this is from 2015, but this is just a short clip here, a brief story about Nina Simone. So let's listen in.
Martin Luther King meeting for the first time. Where were you all, and what happened?
Well, we were at a fundraiser, and we approached Martin, and he put his hand out, and before anything else could happen, she just, in a very strong voice, looked at him and said, "I'm not nonviolent." And he said, "Oh, that's okay, sister, you don't have to be." And he put his hand out, and they shook hands, and it was a very warm meeting after that.
So that is my message to the Olympia community as well. Diversity of tactics, welcome and appreciated. All right, let's see. The only other thing I wanted to... Actually, I have two more things from Olympia here to highlight. Here's a post in the Defund Olympia Police Department group, and this is a copy and paste of a Cop Watch zine from Olympia Cop Watch. And the link to this post is in the description, but you'll have to join that Facebook group. So go ahead and join that and then click the link, and you can check out this post because this is a ton of interesting history and information and research and stories and tips and everything from Olympia Cop Watch over the years. Because this work is not new in Olympia. This has been going on for many years, and the organization Cop Watch has been doing a ton of amazing work for the benefit of all in our community. And you can just see as I scroll through this post how much information is here. So, and there's contact numbers, there's stuff about the codes, there's just so much information in this post. So go ahead and, again, subscribe to that group, Defund Olympia Police Department on Facebook, and then click on that link in the description to learn more. There is one other Facebook post that I wanted to highlight with regard to Olympia local stuff, and this one is, whoops, hang on. There we go. All right. This is a list of Black-owned businesses in the Olympia area that need our support, and we should support them in any way we can as a community. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a running list, and includes Gotti Sweets, Dillinger's, Oli Tap Room, Bowlegs Fish and Chip, CM Focus Production, Arch Brow Studio, Arch Salon and Spa, Jughead's The Barbershop, Alafia, Hot Babe Hot Sauce, Todai Yoga, Media Island International, KOWA 106.5 Low Power FM, Cheeky Martini Lounge, Naturally Toned, the Mountain Bluebird Company, Rumors Wine Bar, Sift and Gather, Whetstone Fitness, Soul Sweet Vegan, Sergeant Hart's Barbecue Sauce, The Grease Boss, Jean-Pierre's 316, Dillinger's Cheese and Provisions, and Barb's Famous Barbecue. And there are a whole bunch more that folks have mentioned in the comments as well. And so check out that link in the description, because those are not just names here, but links to their pages. And you can find more information about all of those businesses and where to find their products and how to support them. So that is my update from Olympia. Again, if you've got more stories from me for Olympia local stuff, or really from anywhere else, please feel free to reach out, and I would love to share your stories as well, or links. I don't know at this time what is the plan locally here for Juneteenth. That's June 19th, which is the holiday that America celebrates the abolition of slavery in the United States. So that is, of course, an ongoing project, but that holiday is something that really should be nationally celebrated and recognized, and it starts with us. So thanks to my union, I got a paid holiday, floating holiday for Juneteenth. And so we all need to make sure everyone can get unionized and can have that right to celebrate the holidays that are important to America moving forwards, including Juneteenth. And again, I don't have a link to a event going on in Olympia right now. So if you do know what's going on for Juneteenth locally or in any of the cities around here, Seattle, Portland, or wherever, please feel free to link that to me, and I will boost that event. Moving on. One moment. Okay. So, I would like to talk about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, otherwise known as CHAZ. You may have heard of this, and you may not have. And you may have heard what is really going on the ground there, or you may have heard some propaganda spin. And so I'm going to go ahead and do some reporting from folks on the, or share rather, some reporting from folks on the ground there, some objective reporting from the CHAZ. And we can find out, because President Trump threw a massive fit about this, and just in his mind, this is just a zone of like ISIS-like Antifa super soldiers and just Mad Max violence, and I don't even know what he's pulling out of his imagination there to be afraid of a boogeyman called Chaz. So that is the propaganda, and Fox News also shared a bunch of pictures with the same like right-wing militia dude just copy and pasted onto a bunch of these photos of the Chaz. And it was just terrible photoshopping, but they just, it's just part of the propaganda. They have to spin it so people can just be afraid and they can just rile up their audience, right? So we're going to go ahead and show some of the true reporting on the ground in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. The photo that I have up right now is credit to Omari Salisbury, and you can go find their work on Twitter at Sir James A12. And, oh no, I was reading the wrong line there. So no, that is wrong. I'm going to share that one here in a second. Sorry, Omari Salisbury. I'm going to go ahead and I will add that link to the description because I missed that one here. So, but I will link to his work. This is credit to Omari. And Omari has been doing a ton of streaming from Seattle as well. So check out them and their media company as well. And credit to Omari for this photo of the Black Women's Rally in Seattle. And it just goes to show this is the type of thing that is really happening in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. A lot of speakers and free food and gardening and art and education and community building. And that's the reality on the ground. So no, is that the question, is the Chaz Mad Max? No, it is not. That's just propaganda. And I will show some more evidence that that backs up that assertion. This is a video here by Kyle Kotajarvi of the Black Lives Matter mural on the street in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And I just wanted to link this one because there's a point that every single letter here was designed by black artists from the Seattle area. And that stands in contrast to the Washington, D.C. one I talked about previously, where that was the mayor just trying to sort of grandstand while continuing the police violence. Instead, this is an alternative that is community-based in Seattle. So check this out. How beautiful is that? That is just awesome. And again, that was designed by black artists from the Seattle area. So, and you can find the link to that tweet in the description as well. I wanted to go ahead and highlight a couple of TikToks here, actually, because TikTok has a bunch of stuff going on about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and you can go ahead and search that for more. But I'm just going to highlight two really quick here.
Wars going on, but the reason's undercover. The truth is kept secret, it's swept under the rug. If you never know truth, then you never know love. Where's the love, y'all? Come on, come on. Where's the truth, y'all? Come on, come on. Where's the love, y'all?
So there's one. And here's another. And I should actually probably mute these so I don't get a copyright strike, huh? Whoops. But the point, as you can see, is it's just a bunch of art and potlucks and stuff, you know, going on there. It's just ridiculous, the caricature that you are getting from the right wing right now. And so it's just important to go ahead and just see firsthand reporting on the ground there. Moving on, there was a rumor also spread by right-wing media that there was warlords, is the term they used, that were controlling this Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And I think they got this idea because there was one black person open carrying a rifle, and so all of a sudden they're scared of warlords, even though they're all standing around in this heavily armed militia with body armor. So I don't know what in the world they're even thinking, but the idea is just ludicrous, of course. And so this is an excellent example of why that is so ridiculous. A white man came into the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone with a bunch of tools and went and broke a window in the abandoned police precinct there and attempted to get into the building. And so what did the let's see what the brutal warlords of the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, how they handled that situation.
So this man right here with his tools.
Hey man, this is the stuff.
Right here, just broke the window of the East Precinct.
Because remember, you gotta be. This guy got
You gotta be careful what you say to me, because
that's what I'm asking.
we say no cops. How come I can't walk in? That's all.
Yesterday with like gray hair.
That's me.
And
y'all know.
Says his name is Elon, but he's a protester who was here yesterday. He's apologizing for breaking. And now they're telling him, if you do that, the message gets lost in translation. So he's being escorted out peacefully here. Let's see if we can shoot around. He's got a whole set of tools here.
That's him.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
So I thought I could do that. No. I was like, who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? SPD ain't here.
I can understand your intentions are sincere, but it's the wrong message. Because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking for us to be destructive. Hold on. They're looking for us to be destructive so that they could take away from the message. That's why we've been peaceful.
So what is the message?
No more.
No more what?
No more. Just no more. No more. No more injustice. No more unfairness. No more. No more racism. No more. And I'm going to tell you something. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Ready Rob. Okay? And I'm going to say this real clear. If you don't like it, I don't care. My true definition of racism isn't what's so different. It's the fear of what we might have in common. Because you can't hold on to that old behavior. Period. Come on, man. Let me walk you out of here. That's right. That's right.
Hey, let him walk as a man. Let him walk as a man.
I got this, y'all. I got this. I don't like.
All right, so that was Ready Ron Beats, who is a Seattle hip hop producer. That was a tweet by Naveed Jamali. The link is in the description of this video below. And again, so what happens here is you have folks on Fox News calling the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone controlled by warlords, and that's just pure racism. That's just explicit racism. It's absolute garbage. And so what you see here is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone peacefully dealing with a security situation and escorting a man who came in to do property damage, peacefully just escorting him out. And he says he was a protester, but he came in to do that and then stood there and said, well, what is the message? Okay, all right, well, I don't know what department he works for or if he works for one, but I mean, like, the idea that this is anybody in any way related to or trying to help the Black Lives Matter movement is just evidently false based on this interaction. And the caricature of violent security and just anarchist chaos in the autonomous zone is just ludicrous. And this is a great example. And so I have a couple of more links here related to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone that I wanted to highlight. And this one is this one is from It's Going Down News, who you should follow. But this is about the propaganda. Quote, Fox News published digitally altered and misleading photos on stories about Seattle's Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in what photojournalism experts called a clear violation of ethical standards for news organizations. And they're just terrible photoshops. And anyway, I already mentioned that, but again, It's Going Down is a great news media source. And that was just I wanted to highlight the different types of media. So that the right wing is running with this just Black Lives Matter is a bunch of just violent anarchist chaos, which is, as we already saw, just complete nonsense. But this is what you can do if you get 6.5 minutes on on national TV and you are an absolute badass like Shauna Sawant. So for some reason, CNN allowed her to have this solid chunk of time talking about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And notice how she just masterfully controls the framing. They try to go with this right-wing narrative and set her up, and she just has none of it and just steamrolls. So check this out. This is Shauna Sawant on CNN.
Local reports about earlier this week how you opened the doors of City Hall to protesters. We have some video here showing, I think it was almost 1,000 people or so who were inside of City Hall. The president, as I know you're aware, has threatened to intervene in your city, and he's called actually protesters domestic terrorists, anarchists as well. Can you give me your reaction to that?
I think what's happening is this incredible movement, this uprising, this rebellion that's not just in Seattle, but nationwide, including in cities like Boise, Idaho, is incredibly inspiring to the vast majority of American people, but it is also threatening to the right wing and the reactionary agenda of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a coward, and it is it's not surprising, but it is horrific for him to threaten entire cities like Seattle and working people and ordinary people and our black and brown community members who are courageously protesting against police violence, threatening them with further escalation and with military targets. I think it is, we have to absolutely reject this idea. And in fact, in that spirit, on Monday, I will be bringing in legislation to vote to ban the use of all chemical weapons and crowd control, so-called crowd control weapons against protest movements, and to ban chokeholds. It's extremely important that we take this historic moment to win real victories against police violence, defund by at least 50%, and fight for an independently elected oversight board over the police.
And this autonomous zone, council member, is, I mean, that's in your area. So just tell us, for, I think, curious people outside, certainly of the city, they want to know what it is. How do you define it?
The autonomous zone, as it's been called by the protest movement, is an incredible area of peace and friendship and dignity, and to take the movement forward. So it is full of hundreds of ordinary people, young people, children, families, and this is a movement obviously led by black and brown community members, but it is welcoming to people from all over the city and the region who want to join in the struggle.
All right, anywho, that is also linked in the description, so you can go check that out. But basically, just Shauna Sawant is a master of controlling the narrative and not letting them reframe the conversation in a way that discredits you before you even start. One moment. So I'm going to switch topics here, and I have been wanting to do an episode on Black Lives Matter and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and I would add to that space as well. I'm a bit of a space nerd and a science nerd. I love learning about all that stuff and exploration, and it's really important that we focus on Black Lives Matter in every area of our society, and STEM is a big one of those. Recently, there was some headlines when Dr. Mae Jemison, who was the first African American woman in space, and her account on Twitter was not verified. And so there was a big push by science communication folks on Twitter to get Dr. Mae Jemison verified, and they were successful. And I would just also note that there are two other African-American astronauts, Yvonne Cagle and Charlie Bolden Jr., who are still not yet Twitter verified. So if you're on Twitter, I would encourage going ahead and saying something to Twitter about verifying astronauts Yvonne Cagle and Charlie Bolden Jr. And this is my space Twitter here at NerdOly. And I will, like I said, I'm going to continue to work on an episode about Black and STEM, which is a hashtag you can search to find more information about that as well. And you can expect more from this show on that topic in the future. If you have a question or comment or link on that subject, please let me know so I can include it in that episode. I have just a couple of quick links to highlight real quick before we move on. So this is a quote from David Charbonneau, and he says, quote, "The Harvard Department of Astronomy has graduated 425 PhDs since 1925. One of those was awarded to a black scientist. So that's 0.24%. A profoundly racist history. Hashtag strike for Black Lives." And they continue, and there's a link to that in the description as well. But there is a systemic problem, not just at Harvard, but in higher education in America with regard to racism and with regard to the intersection of race and gender as well, that black women and black trans Americans face in the science, technology, engineering, and math fields, from the academic side to the postgraduate side and the job market and everything else as well. So again, I'm going to talk more about that in the future and dig in deeper on Black Lives Matter in science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, I have a few more things to cover here before we wrap up the show, and I want to talk about some resources, educational resources, and this is one by at FUMI_CHUN, aka Pearl Lowe on Twitter, and quote, "A list of trans funds / resources, a thread." And this is a thread where you can find all kinds of different fundraising campaigns and organizations and individuals, emergency funds. We have Black Trans Travel Fund. We have Homeless Black Trans Women Fund. We have LGBTQ Freedom Fund, Marsha P. Johnson Institute, and you should recognize that name from the Stonewall riots. If you don't, you should look up Marsha P. Johnson, Trans Justice Funding, and just so many links here that I can't even go into them all. But again, a link to this thread is in the description, so please check that out and support some of those funding campaigns, because the trans community is going through so much discrimination right now, from Trump to transphobic Republican governors, to the healthcare system, to intersectional oppression between Black Lives Matter and anti-Black racism and the trans community as well. And so go ahead and check that out. That is an excellent thread full of resources and ways that you can help. Moving on, this is a thread by Devon Springer at Half Atlanta. And this is a thread of educational materials that you can find online in ebook version, and there is just a enormous depth of resources in this thread. So please, again, check this link in the description. It is just packed with information. You can read Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. You can read Kwame Nkrumah. You can read Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, and Paulo Freire, Che Guevara. And it just goes on and on. Michael Parenti, W.E.B. Du Bois. You can read Vladimir Lenin. You can read it just goes on and on. So Winona LaDuke, just excellent resources here. And again, these are full of links to free ebook versions of these texts that you can read for free online. So this is just a huge resource here from at Half Atlanta, and the link is in the description. Check that out. I wanted to highlight this link here, which is also in the description. This is a Facebook post in the Defund Olympia Police Department group. So if you want to join that group, and you can find more information such as this. And this is just, I mean, it's this information about all of the money that politicians have taken from, whoops, the formatting here on this page is not cooperating with me right now. So I'll have to go back and look more about that that data, and I'll report on that in the future. But again, you can go check out that group to do some research on your own. And you can also do research on the Public Disclosure Commission's webpage and other areas. And so that is an important research that all of us should be doing right now. Let's find out which politicians are getting how much money from police and law enforcement organizations and Fraternal Order of Police and the police guilds and all this stuff. And let's put pressure on them, because this is a national movement, and a lot of folks are actually getting politicians across the country to return some of this money or donate it that they have taken. So let's support that movement and continue that work. Now, to end the show, I am going to leave you on the words of Bernice King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. And this is just a message of encouragement. And I just thought this was an excellent thing to end the show on. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and I really appreciate everyone who sends in a comment, a question, or link, or likes the show, or shares it, or subscribes, or any of these things. I really appreciate it. All I want to do here is create a platform for increasing community discussion and knowledge. And so if you want to be a part of that, please reach out, and you can be a part of this show as well. And with that, I will leave you with the words of Bernice King.
Don't stop until they pay the debt on the don't stop until they pay the debt on the check that my father presented in 1960 on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Don't stop until there is justice and equity for black and brown people, not just in these United States, but all across the world that we live in, because we are in the world house. We are inextricably bound. And as my daddy said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and what affects one directly affects all indirectly. Amen. Don't stop.